Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hello everyone and welcome today what feels like 500 with this cold sore. So we have a lovely little star on my face again, which I know it's not that big of a deal to anyone else but me, and mentioning it just brings attention to it, but it's just irritating me because I only get a couple a year, but whenever I do, they just make me feel like absolute crud about myself, and it's the worst. And then when it's healed up, I'll feel absolutely fine and it'll be great, but it's just a struggle to want to film when I have them. So we're going comfy cozy today. I got my Crescent City University sweater on and we're going all cozy, and I'm excited to do this video today because this one was voted on by my channel members, and as you can tell by the title, it's going to be hidden gems from the last few years. So this is like kind of, I had a system picking these out, but mostly they're just I did it based on, I went through the last 4 years on my Goodreads, which I know sounds like it'd be a whole bunch, but the way, I don't go totally nuts with my Goodreads shelves. I know some people do. They use it for a lot of organization, and I am organized in that I do spreadsheets for all the books that I read, but on Goodreads, I just don't get too complicated with it. But I make shelves for each year. I make 4 shelves each year, and using Goodreads for 6 years regularly, that is starting to stack up. But I make a shelf for the arcs that I read, for my favorite reads, for the books overall that I read, and then for well, I used to make one for DNF, so I have a few of those. And so I go into the one where I read them all, and then I filtered it by how many ratings the book has, not by what their rating was, but by how many like ratings that it had. And then I just looked to see which ones I liked the best, but had the least amount of ratings. And then I just picked a few from each year. So I went back, I was going to go back just the last 3 years, but then I couldn't really find enough. So I went back one more year as well. So I ended up with 10 of these that I'm calling them hidden gems, but it basically means that they have about, like, there's 2 of these I think that break the mold. Again, I wasn't really trying for a rule. I was just trying to pick ones that are not talked about that much, and to do that, I was like, well, let's go by picking ones that haven't been rated that many times, because that usually means they're not being talked about if not that many people have read them. So this wasn't a lot of rules. But again, this video is being sponsored by my channel members, and if you're interested in helping pick a video every month, or if you would like early access to videos, you can check that out down below. I am thinking about consolidating my channel memberships this year, just to make it a bit more streamlined, because Patreon is where I have a lot more variation in what the like rewards are or what the perks are. And I'm thinking on channel memberships starting this year sometime to just have there be like one tier and you get everything, and just kind of do it that way. So I don't know. Let me know what you think about that, just because there's only like $1 difference between all the tiers anyway. So I'm thinking to just like go in the middle of what the levels are, and then just make them like all the same thing. Because YouTube is so, like, they take so much of the percentage anyway, that the difference between if you're on the $2 tier and the $6 tier of how it helps the channel is so minimal anyway. I'd rather just like split the difference and say like all the tiers are like, it's a one tier that's $4, and then if that works for people it does, or it doesn't, or whatever, and then there's just one and you get access to all the things that a channel member does. I don't know. Let me know if that's something you're interested in. I know people like choices, and so that's why it's like, give people choices, but also I'm just tired of having there be like different levels on the channel memberships, because YouTube just wants to find a way to tax everybody into oblivion, you know? So anyway, that's a side rant, but let me know, because I still want there to be perks for you guys, but also why does it have to be tiered on YouTube, who just wants to take advantage of you guys and me? Whereas Patreon, of course, they take their cut, but they definitely take a much smaller cut. And so having there be a bunch of different tiered options for people to choose from, at least that makes more sense. So anyway, let's get into these. And I'm going to try not to go too banana pants with explaining these ones, especially because you guys know I'm almost immediately fibbing when I say I won't go too deep. But some of these, because I did go back 4 years, some of these I don't remember as well. I just know that I rated all of these. I picked ones that I rated 4 or higher, so I liked them when I read them. And they were ones that had, like I said, on average, I don't think any that I picked had more than 2,500 ratings, except for one. So they haven't been read that many times. And I have them up on Goodreads, or I have the physical copy. So we're just going to go through them, and they're hidden gems that I obviously rated highly and maybe haven't talked about them a lot. And we're just going to go from there. Okay. So yeah, what I'm drinking today is actually a like strawberry agua fresca. You can like buy that now in like a jug, and it was making me feel nostalgic for, I know this is a random side note, but if you see me drinking this creamy pale pink liquid here, when I went on my mission trip to Colombia, they gave us this for breakfast every morning. And of course it was fresh with like strawberry chunks in it, and it was the most delicious thing in the world. And anyway, like I said, feeling nostalgic for that. Anyway, I'm having a weird day today. Okie doke. So the first one that I put on my list is by an author or authors that I greatly love, but is a book that I never hear anyone talk about at all by them, and that is The Warlock's Kiss, okay? So this one is basically like a dystopian book, but it does also have like magic involved. So I'm just going to read the back of it, because again, these ones I read them a long time ago, so we're going to rely on blurbs for them, and I'll give you my impressions of the book that I remember still, okay? So this one says, "The Sundering killed millions and filled the world with supernatural monsters. It took nearly everything from Adeline, her dreams, her home, her parents, and her chance of beating her terminal cancer." Okay, so trigger warning for that. But it didn't take her little brother, Danny. She's come to terms with her inescapable fate, and she'll do everything she can to ensure her brother has a chance at survival in this new and unforgiving world. When Danny and Adeline discover a rundown mansion in the middle of nowhere, it seems like the perfect place for him to stay, but the mansion's owner, a tall, mysterious, intense man who exudes a strangely thrilling energy, complicates matters. Though Adeline doesn't want to leave another person devastated when she's gone, Merrick has other plans for her, and he makes it clear he will keep her, no matter what price he must pay to make it so. So, my impressions of this one, what I liked is that has the dystopian vibes. It also gave me the feel of kind of like the Monstrous series by Lily Mayne, as in like the dystopian event that happened kind of like lifted the veil of like there was monsters, and now people are like at the mercy of these monsters, as well as it feels like the end of the world. So there was that going on. Then, you know, we have this woman who's now, you know, modern technology was saving her life from a disease, and now that's gone. So her parents are gone. Her hope of like surviving this illness is gone. And now she has a little brother who doesn't have anyone else to protect him. So she has to kind of be the like hard ass of like, I am ill. I'm going to die. I'm going to need to teach you what you need to survive. I can't go easy on you, even though I love you, because you have to be able to live when I die. So like all of those things seem really heavy. But remember, this is a romance. So this is where the magical element comes in, because something that Tiffany and Robert always write is they write fated mates. Okay. So enter our magical warlock, who, of course, they also like to write a lot of Beauty and the Beast vibes, right? So we got this guy living in his magical mansion, and, you know, he's going to be a bit of a fated mate thing. And so if his mate has something that is killing her, well, you know, we're going to find a way to fix that. Let's just say that. But, you know, it has that Beauty and the Beast vibe because they stumble into his mansion. They're touching things in there, finding his stores of food, and he wants to just kick them out, but he feels this connection to them and doesn't quite have it in him to just kick them out. And in the same way where this says, like, she doesn't want to leave another person devastated by her, he's also suffered loss. He doesn't want to fall for this sick human who he could lose if she dies of cancer either. So, yeah. But again, this is one that you just never see them really like promoting or talking about. And when I used to be a part of their Patreon, I had gotten like an audio code. I listened to this one on audio and I love this one. So this was one I wanted to bring up as a gem. The Warlock's Kiss. Really, really enjoyed this one. I have a signed copy of it. So yeah. And of course, woo, slippery. All of these will end up linked down below in the end for you to check it out. Okay, now we'll skip to another, oops, sorry, like I said, I have the computer open. We'll skip to another kind of like monster or like fantastical one. And this one definitely got like pretty harsh ratings from people. And I still do talk about this one now and then. But this one is one that, yes, you got to suspend a lot of disbelief because it's an alien romance that is basically a, you know, really smutty one. Like the Warlock's Kiss. Tiffy and Robert still go for the more romantic vibes and things. It's one of the reasons why, even though, you know, a lot of people know them for their the spider romance that of course, that is one that isn't as funny to say. That one's not as niche. You know, they're very well known for the spider's mate at this point. But the Warlock's Kiss is, in a lot of ways, a more traditional, like, fantasy romance, you know. But this one, Jumping the Shark by Ash Raven, is one that I 100% did a cover for. And I read it because she had ARC signups happening. And this one does not have a great rating on Goodreads. People don't like it. Not a lot of people have read it. But I was just in a place where I wanted to read this at the time. I don't read as much monster smut these days. And you guys know I say smut with the most beloved of things to say. But this one, it absolutely is like all for the smut. We have a double-dicked shark, okay? And he literally disguises himself as a man and travels from his planet to Earth because his planet literally does these like interstellar dating because they're trying to find mates because they don't have enough mates on their planet. So he literally goes under disguise to mate, his name is Maxon, to be paired with a human woman named Odette. And he gets paired with her and they have a good date. And then he literally abducts her at the end of the date and brings her to his home because she's his mate. And because, you know, he's done kind of his like research beforehand, she doesn't have any like family on Earth and they're compatible. She's his mate. And so he basically kidnaps her and brings her home. And, she is okay with being kidnapped and becoming his little girl. He's a daddy shark, and she becomes his baby girl. And, yeah, so it's a giant shark man, and it's just as steamy as you think it'd be. There's a little bit of DDLG play, just a little bit. It's mostly about him having two dicks, and we use those two dicks, and, it's hot, okay? And I like this one, and it was sweet. And it's quick. It's only like 160 pages. And he takes her back to his tropical planet where he spoils her. And he's actually like retiring, I think, from being like, he was like the king or the leader of this planet too. So this is his like reward if she becomes his mate. So this to me was a hidden gem because it wasn't trying to make any statements. It wasn't trying to be anything more than it was. And so, yeah, this one is rated. It only has a 3.4 on Goodreads. Okay, people were not very nice to it. But at the same time, I'm like, what were people trying to get out of this one? This is one of those where like, I never promised it was more than it was. Like I rated it a 4. It was nothing more than what it said it would be. And it was nothing less than it said it would be. And it was fun. So it could have felt sinister when he kidnapped her. But it was absurd and sweet. And that's why it's a hidden gem to me. And it is still why it comes up in recommendations for certain kinks. And why it comes up at times when I find it to be appropriate for like monster or alien recs. And I wanted to put it in this video. So there you go. Okay, now to switch to some more serious ones here. I have a historical for you. Just in general, this author, by the way, which I don't know that she's had another book yet. I always keep my eye out for her, but, you know, this is a historical romance author that I wanted so much more for, and so I do hope she's still writing. No, she does have another one after this. I think so. Yeah, I think she does, because I think I did read it. I just didn't buy that one because this one's my favorite that she wrote. But I have Poppies and Silk by Tanya Fisher. So the hidden gem in general is Tanya Fisher. And this is a like Western series. And, you know, in general, I wish I read more historical Westerns. And I think they're not really being written as much today unless they are kind of more like religious ones or faith-based ones are written. And I'm just not really interested in those. I'm just not. Though I am a faith-based person myself, I don't really enjoy reading inspirational romance or ones that are too based in that. I just don't. So that's not really what I'm craving. But this author writes Western-ish romances, and I really enjoy them. And yeah, I think she does have 3 of them out. But Poppies and Silk was just a deeply moving one, and it is a bit darker. But this one takes place in 1879. Or no, that's the prologue. When does it mostly take place? I think it skips ahead. When does it skip ahead to? Probably in the 1880s, yeah, 1888 in May in Dogwood, Texas. And this one is about Poppy Daniels, who is widowed, and she gets set free from taking care of her pretty ill husband. So she had a good husband, though. This wasn't a bad situation, but she'd basically been married to kind of rescue her out of a bad situation. So she wasn't like in love with her husband, but it was a good situation. And if I remember correctly, both her husband and her mother-in-law had like died in the same illness. And so her father-in-law is going to be getting remarried. And so he like splits like some money with her. And he's going to go and be remarried, and he kind of gives her his blessing and sends her on the way. So they part in a good way, but he's also not going to like keep looking after her kind of thing, right? So she has some friends in another town, and she takes this little bit of money that she's left with. And, you know, that's why she's in like black here, and she's a seamstress. And so she goes to Dogwood, which is where she'd lived for a time with her mother, but her mother was a lady of the night, as it were. But she goes there to work as a seamstress and hoping to make it on her own. And so there she meets Sol Williams, which if you read, which you probably haven't, because again, this is a hidden gem, so people have it, but we know who Sol is. And he's this sweet old boy that we know who's a brother of one of the other characters there, and just almost seems like too sweet for words for her. And she kind of sees him that way too. She sees herself as very jaded and kind of a broken woman. But he is just infatuated with her and thinks she's just so wonderful. He has a younger sister who he's trying to raise, and ends up offering Poppy to make Poppy offers to make his sister a new wardrobe. And so when she visits the ranch, they begin a summer affair that starts to turn into something deeper. But then, because this is, like I said, the romances aren't dark in these, but there is like darker themes happening in them, and a lot of it does have to do with what life for women then is like. And when some women start to go missing, and it has to do with the place where her and her mother used to be, let's just say, stationed out of when they lived there before. Poppy gets wrapped up into it, and Sol's sister gets wrapped up into it, and things do get quite dark there for a bit. So I just found this so beautiful, and I loved how Sol, we see him like grow up. He goes from very kind of like in awe and kind of like wide-eyed at the beauty and bit of sadness in Poppy. He finds very intriguing, and I mean, let's be honest, a little bit erotic to him. But as he uncovers like what could make a woman that way, he really starts to appreciate that, like, okay, this isn't just something that is like to be in awe of. Like, it takes a lot to break a woman to have her be that way, and maybe you shouldn't see this as like a delicacy, and maybe be a bit more reverent of it, as it were. But anyway, I love their journeys, and it's one of those where you're like, is this gonna have a happy ending? You know, that just made it full of a lot of longing and yearning. And gosh, like I said, I really hope that Tanya Fisher will keep writing some books, because she really puts that type of grit in there that makes the happily ever afters feel so earned by the end. I'm trying to think of like some historical romance authors to compare her to that aren't like hyperbole, and it's like really difficult because she's just so distinct. Like, her stories are very distinct to me, and again, that's why she's a hidden gem to me, and I really, really, really want other people to read her stories, because just nobody does. Like, just nobody does. And I really, really want you to. So if you like historical romance, particularly if you like Westerns, but you don't want them to feel too cowboy. Like, they don't have to feel too cowboy to you, just like the settings of the West, but without the sometimes more like political complications of that. I really think you should try Tanya Fisher. I believe the first one is Letters to Dogwood. Loved that one. That was her debut. And then there is Poppies and Silk. And then I can't remember book 3, but I did enjoy, Trail of Sunflowers. She has it right here. Letters to Dogwood, Poppies and Silk, and Trail of Sunflowers are the Texas Bloom series. And you should definitely give it a go. Okay, let's throw in, oh, this one was so good. Let's throw this in, an erotic romance here. I have a few erotic ones on here. So this was one I read this for Patreon, didn't I? Yeah, I read this for Patreon 2 years ago. And this still breaks my heart that this was the only like book that this author wrote. And I need to get a physical copy of this one, because I read it for Patreon, which means I had to give it away to the person when I was done with it. But this is The Escort's Tale by MJ Edwards. And if you are a patron who joined after 2024, I highly recommend you go back and watch my detailed review of that, which of course is available to you if you're a patron now. But this is a shorter one. It's technically a novella length, but this was, I think we picked this for Menage, because this is a Menage. This is a polyamorous MMF. But this is a male escort, of course, An Escort's Tale. And this is a guy who's usually hired to be a cuckold, okay? And, oh, just wait, this is so beautiful. So this guy is usually hired to be a cuckold, J.D. Pierce, and he gets hired for whatever the kink is. And he's there for bisexual fantasy, or just to fuck your wife in front of you, or whatever you want. And so he gets hired this time for this couple, actually, who the hero, Nick, had suffered a spinal cord injury, so he can't fuck his wife anymore. And he really wants to give his wife, pleasure, though. So they hire, JP, whose name's actually Jasper, to do this. And, so yeah, he's gonna fuck, Althea is her name, in front of Nick. And Nick is, and so they've never like done this before, but they were an extremely sexual couple. They're these millionaires, and they're deeply in love, and he's been hurt, I think it's for a couple years now. And so, yeah, and it's driving a wedge in their relationship. And Nick is straight, but Althea hires Jasper to help them fix things. So Nick thinks that this is just going to be a way for him to give his wife pleasure, and he's okay with that. But Althea actually has a bit more to it that she wants. Like, she's actually hoping that Jasper might bridge the gap more than Nick even knows. And so Jasper doesn't quite know how. He's, he thinks he's just there for this job, to fuck Althea and like, do this job, get paid, and get out. And number one, he's extremely attracted to both of them. I mean, Nick is still very good looking, and they actually are surprised that he is actually able to still get aroused. And anyway, I don't want to spoil the entire thing, but it does end up becoming that Nick is actually very attracted to Jasper, and they end up wanting to hire him more and more. And the three of them become involved. And it was just amazing to me how this author, in such a short book, like, again, this is under 200 pages, you're able to have the first interaction, which is Jasper and Althea fucking in front of Nick, but right away Jasper reads the situation like, God, I want to read this again. I'm going to read this book again because it's been a long time and I'm just remembering it again, and like, it's so fucking good. And immediately, like, Jasper realizes that, like, Nick is doing this for Althea, but, like, he can make it mean something for Nick. Like, this isn't the normal cuckold situation where the dude just wants to, like, Nick is a dom, and I can let him direct this. I can let him feel like I'm being the penis for him. Like, that's what he lets this scene become. And, you know, Jasper gets off on letting that happen, too. And then, like, there's different role plays that they end up doing. And then even Nick then starts having desire for Jasper as well, because of how Jasper helps him feel masculine again. So, like, all this is able to happen in this very short book. And it just truly, if you enjoy erotic romance, if you like MMF, if you like poly romance, I truly, truly, truly recommend this. If you really liked, like, I love recommending, if you like this, try this. If you like The Homewrecker, you 1,000,000% have to try reading the Escort's Tale. Like, you must. If you've read The Homewrecker, you have to try this. Because it's even less, like, forbidden. Like, The Homewrecker is a forbidden one. Like, there's cheating in that. This one isn't cheating, like, at all. Like, they literally invite this man there. Like, they're doing it with consent the whole way through. So if you like The Homewrecker, but you don't like that it feels like cheating at the start, read this one. There's no cheating in this one, like, at all. There's consent all the way through. And it ends up just being this fucking beautiful, beautiful thing. Like, it's so good. But yeah, let's move on. That one's great. That one's short, sweet, delicious. Love it. Okay. Let's do another historical. This one, I'll just mention real quick as well, is The Marquess Who Mustn't. I don't understand how this one didn't have more reads, but I think just, like, there's a third one in this series too that I haven't even read, so maybe that's why. Like, Courtney Milan just did not get the attention she deserves at all. This one came out in 2023 and was the follow-up to The Duke Who Doesn't. The Duke Who Did. Actually, I don't remember. Was it The Duke Who Didn't or something? I don't know now. But anyway, this one is about Miss Naomi Kwong, and then about Kai. And I guess Kai's father had actually, like, embarrassed this small town, and he comes back to basically, like, make things right. And the town is very distrustful of him. And, I don't know. This is one that, I'm sorry, it's been while since I read it, and so it's hard to for my brain to remember everything perfectly with this one. Let me just read the back of it. Let's not fumble. Let me read it here, okay? One good fraud deserves another. I know it's a fake engagement here. Miss Naomi Kwon has spent years wanting to take ambulance classes. That's right. She wants to be a medic, basically, so that she can save lives. But when she tries to register, she's told she needs permission from the man in charge of her. It would be incredibly wrong to claim that the tall, taciturn Chinese nobleman she just met is her fiancé. But Naomi is desperate, and desperate times call for fake engagements. So, to her unending surprise, Wu Ji Kai goes along with her ruse. It's not that Kai is nice. He's in Wedgeford to practice his family business, and there's no room for nice when you're out to steal a fortune. It's not that the engagement is convenient. A fake fiancé winding herself into his life and his heart is suboptimal when he plans to commit fraud and flee the country. His reason is simple. Kai and Naomi were betrothed as children. He may have disappeared for 20 years, but their engagement isn't actually fake. It's the only truth he's telling. That's right. It's remembering a bit. Because yes, his father had, like, engaged him to her, but that was like a fraud back then. But they're still, I guess, technically engaged, but now he's back to right the wrong that his father did, but he's going to right the wrong by doing another fraud. It's very confusing for me to explain in a short amount of time. But the point is, Courtney Milan does some of the most beautiful, like, pining and longing and slow burn ever, and this was freaking beautiful. This was a book that we did for Rake Appreciation Society, and it's gorgeous, and more people need to read Courtney Milan. So, that's why it's a hidden gem, because not enough people read Courtney Milan. So, there we go. Okay, next up, there is... Here's a really, really big throwback, man. Not enough people read this one for sure. If She Says Yes by Tasha L. Harrison. And this one is actually a best friend's mom, and also a son's best friend, like whichever way you want to do it. But it's an older woman. It's also a, like, he's submissive to her kind of thing. And this is a interracial romance. So it's also, I think, like, he's Latino, she is Black, I believe, is the interracial there too. And so with BDSM in here too. It's so good. This one was really popular a few years ago on, like, BookTube, at least with my girlfriends it was, but it did just not get enough love. It still has under 1,000 ratings. And then she ended up writing a part 2 because it did kind of end on a cliffhanger, sort of. Like, it was a happy for now, but it was, like, barely, like, she left us with, like, the teases of tease. And I'm so glad she ended up, like, people kind of, like, push her into writing the second one type of thing. And I didn't even know there was a second part of it until years later it just popped up. But If She Says Yes is about Tomas Martinez, and he's had a crush on Darcy McFarland, his best friend's mother, for longer than he's willing to admit. Would it be wrong to make those feelings known on the weekend of his best friend's wedding? Or would it be a big time party foul? Tying himself up and offering up his body to her to defile wouldn't be on his list of best man duties either, huh? What if he dropped to his knees and begged her to let him worship her in every way he fantasized about over the years? Would that be a wedding day faux pas? And what if she said yes? So basically he wants her to dominate him, and it's super hot, and he is a dirty little slut for her, and it's so good. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that one. Okay, then we have one that I know at least I've talked about a ton, but I'm going to keep mentioning it because I love it so much. Even if, like, I talk about this when I talk about authors who just disappeared or ones that I don't know if we'll ever get more of, but this book does technically stand alone on its own, so I'm going to keep talking about it as a hidden gem because I loved it. And that is Under a Northern Sky by L.L. Meyer. And this book is #1 in the Barbarian Realms and currently is, like, the only one because the author never did keep going. But this one, she says in here, the dedication is so cute because it's like, this one is for that girl sitting in the movie theater watching Gladiator for the first time and asking herself, I wonder what that one guy's story is when the barbarian held up the soldier's severed head. I love this. So this one is about Rena and Luca, and this is what it says on the back here. A hopeful bride, Rena has suffered much in her short life. Being bartered away to a barbarian realm without her consent is just the final injustice at the hands of her cousin, the king of I can't pronounce it. But marrying a man sight unseen, even a barbarian, may not be the end of the world, but the beginning of a new one. A reluctant groom. Luca has finally put a sword through his father's cruel heart, and by northern law, the mantle of leadership is now his, no matter how unwelcome. He won't shirk his duty, even if the people of his realm deserve better, even if it means having a foreign bride forced upon him. An ill-fated union. Before they ever met, disaster strikes. Rena is falsely accused of an unpardonable crime and meets her betrothed as a prisoner. Despite it all, they're still expected to marry, but with neither of them willing to forgive or forget, they're enemies, not lovers. Caught in a political tug-of-war beyond their control, Luca and Rena come to realize they may have been taken for fools, and that not all love begins in beauty. Some, it seems, are born in the dark. So I love the beginning of this because, yes, what happens at the beginning is she's being, like, transported to be married to him, and something happens on the way there, and she gets accused, I believe, of killing someone. And so she basically shows up, like, in chains to him. And so now the question is he still going to marry her and make peace with her family, or is he going to execute her and start war with her family? Which him just having taken power would start off his reign in a very shaky place. And so he, instead of like talking, how can he trust anything she says? He's being told that she did this murder. And it starts off really rough. Like, she's not treated well in the beginning. It's one of those where you're like, I love the beginning of this, even though it's so hard to read, because he's like incurring this debt with each thing he does wrong to her, that you're like, is she going to reach a point where, like, is he going to grovel for forgiveness once he realizes what he's done? Are they going to reach a point of no return where there's no way for him to come back to this? Or like, where are we going to get to? And I love stories like that, because it's like, will Rena realize that, what else was he going to be able to do? Like, he also has to stand strong. Like, I love those kind of things. So I love how this one played out so much. Okay, then there was, and this is another, like, a lot of these hidden gems to me were like older ones, right, that were suggested by sometimes like viewers and stuff, because they're just books that get lost through the years, that just don't get the audience that they deserve. There was Crossing the Lines by S.J. Hooks. This was another BDSM heavy book. In fact, it was one that is built around kind of like a service submissive idea. And I really enjoyed it. And this one was about this woman named Abigail. And she's a young single mother on the verge of homelessness. And she accepts a proposition from a rich man, handsome stranger named Mr. Thorne, to basically be his, like, to be his live-in submissive. And so she can basically bring her son to stay with him at the cost of, being his submissive. And so he will be her sir and she'll be his submissive. And then, like, once her child goes to bed, she'll do whatever he needs to. And so it was interesting because it was a bit of like, I believe too, it even says like, this was a bit of like 50 Shades of Grey, like fanfic, but like and this isn't official, this is just kind of how it read, but like make Anastasia like a single mom and the kid's there and he's trying to keep like so separate from the kid. But, good luck with that when a kid's involved type of thing. So yeah, I ended up really enjoying this. I, of course, love seeing all different types of dynamics, and whenever someone with BDSM is so sure that they can keep it just to sex, but they're not doing it within a club where they're just meeting someone there. If you're going to live in a dynamic with someone, I'm always like, good luck, and I think that's why so many of us love reading those type of things too. But they're also the ones that I enjoy too, where it's like, are you incurring debt throughout the day that you'll then have to like have punishments for at the end of the evening? Like, I like those kind of things too. So yeah, Crossing the Lines was really good. And S.J. Hooks is another one who has basically written nothing else but this one. I really think that this one was probably a like pseudonym for another author. That's the vibe that I get, but I'm not sure who else they were, Then I had to throw in this one that I read at the beginning of the year. And as I always will do, this one is one from my author. And I had never heard of this until she asked me to do a read of it and do a content pull for her. But I had no clue about it, never heard of it. And it deeply moved me. It really, really did. And I guess it is one of her most popular books, but I had no clue about it. And that is Salvation by Noelle Adams. And to me, this is one of her darkest titles as Noelle Adams, because it does deal in the beginning with a pretty grievous assault that happens, because our main character, she is actually kidnapped because her father is a very powerful person, and she's kidnapped and assaulted and held for ransom. And at the same time that she's being kidnapped, there is a undercover, I think it's an FBI agent or DI, whoever he is, or DA or whatever, who's trying to infiltrate this this criminal organization. And this agent, I think Ethan's his name, he actually has to, or Gideon, his name, why did I say Ethan? Her name is Diana, his name is Gideon, and he actually has to like listen to her assault. And just a little while after her assault, they get rescued, but it's too late for her to not be assaulted, which is just horrible. And then it skips forward a little bit. So like, we don't have to like, you know, it's like, we know what happens. But then we see a lot of like the fallout for her. And we see Gideon, who, it's not like they were friends. They don't know each other for more than a couple of hours. But Gideon feels this connection to her. And he's really the only one checking in on her. Because even her father doesn't know how to relate to her or help her. She wasn't even close with him before this. But her father's enemies knew that he had a daughter. And so they used her against him. And this book is just really about like how Gideon, you know, takes on being the one to look after her and how she just can't handle that really. And it really is about her road to salvation and how he can't be that salvation, but he can be someone who's there to help her want to seek it. And I don't know, I just found this so moving, and it sticks out to me so much because at this point, I've read so many books by my author at this point, right? But when I read this one, I had not. I'd only read, well, no. I'd read like all of her Claire Kent stuff, but of her Noelle Adams stuff I hadn't. And the stuff I'd read had all been a lot fluffier than this. And this was one of the times where I was like, whoa, like this is this type of stuff that you're writing here, and it's amazing, you know, and that's always cool to see a new facet of someone. So if you like a lot of her Claire Kent stuff, but you haven't tried some of her Noelle Adams titles, and you want them a bit grittier, I recommend this. Also, again, it's not dark, but there is heavier like mental tolls in this one to check out. So alrighty, so that is where I'm going to wrap this up with my unique and my unique hidden gems for the last few years here. I'll have all of these linked down below for you. So let me know some hidden gems. Let me know if you've tried some of these hidden gems because of me. You remember me talking about them before. But we would love to know, me and I'm sure the other viewers, if there's some hidden gems that you have to share. Feel free to put them in the comments or put them in my book rec form that I always have listed in the comments. We would love to see that. And yeah, we will see you in the next video, friends. Have a great week. Bye.